Hey everyone, Mark here from TST Industries along with Bart and Alex. And today we are here at Jennings GP in sunny Florida, and we are testing the limits of our 2024 Suzuki GSX-8R. Now, if you are just joining us, you haven't really been around. Last year, we did take our GSX-8S out on the track and gave it some proper testing, provided you all with a lot of feedback, some subjective, some objective points. But we are here today to test this bike out under some different conditions. We have gone ahead and modified this bike just enough to really give it a different feel from the GSX-8S, including installing our rear set risers, some clip-ons, an upgraded rear shock. So we're doing a lot of testing, but at its core, we are still trying to find out the potential of this bike. As we've seen in some racing events over the past few weeks, these bikes are performing very, very well. A lot of top-level racers are providing excellent feedback. So we want to try and find the same internally. So Bart and Alex will be tuning it, turning some laps, having some fun. We hope you guys stick around. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Right now is a perfect time before we get into some of the action. See you guys in a few.
All right, we are back at the shop. We took this bike to the track. We actually took it to the track twice since the last video we launched. We decided to build on what we found on the S model on the track, because making redundant videos of a very, very similar bike is just, it's a lot of labor and it doesn't provide you guys with any additional info really. The only difference between the S model really is the set of fairings on the bike, and then the bars look like this in stock form, where they're very similar in location to the S model. They're just a little bit lower. So we decided, let's just build on what we found in the S model track video and also what Mark found in the street riding video of the R model, and we'll take it from there. So we permitted ourselves to use some of the data found at the Taking It to the Track 8S video and start making some modifications here. First and foremost, we did clip-ons here because I found myself riding kind of T-Rexed on the bike. The rider triangle here was very cramped and the bar position was also cramped. I found myself fighting with where to put my elbow in relation to my knee. That was very uncomfortable, made for an ineffective riding position. So we had some 50mm clip-ons laying around the shop, so we threw those on. The bar location went pretty much straight into the fork tube. These are subsequent ones. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So we put those on first. Now we had very limited lock-to-lock steering angle. Everything was hitting the bodywork. So we did a steering stop also to limit that so we don't whack all of the other components, and that seemed to work well. I found that the more stretched out and lowered position for my arms really helped. That enabled me to get in a better tuck, better riding position, and going into corners, I was able to move around the bike a lot better. I was finding that I had more elbow room and I could place myself better and anchor in a little bit better. One additional ergonomic change that we did that was very important, we found taking the S model to the track, the foot position was really, really low and there was no adjustment to be had. So we created riser plates for the rear sets and we threw those on, and that allowed us to put the rear sets up and back a little bit. In stock form here with stock bodywork, I got much more cramped, but I was able to get into corners faster and sustain faster speeds through corners because I wasn't dragging a bunch of stuff on the ground. So that was a big plus. I do like those parts. However, you get going really fast and demanding more lean angle, and you still run out of clearance. So later on, we had to do something about that. I'll get into that a little bit later. Like I said, we did 2 track sessions, 2 track days with this bike. I'm just talking about the first set of modifications here. It's phase 1. So I'll keep going down the list. In the ergonomics department, I also found that the levers were substandard for my hands. I decided to go with an EVOS clutch lever on the left side there. EVOS is made by Womatech, one of our in-house companies that we deal. That provided me with a very nice feel on the clutch. On the right side here, as you can see, we have a Brembo GP master cylinder. We did away with the OEM brakes. We did away with the ABS. I don't like that for track use. I like to be connected. I like to say, hey, I need brakes, and brakes respond immediately. There's no disconnect. There's no computer telling the bike what it thinks I want to do. It's sort of a controversial item. A lot of guys that ride the street won't want that, and I don't really recommend it. For me, for track use, ABS is a no-go, so that's why we did that. In addition, we did away with all the hoses and lines that the ABS system comes with, and we went with Core Moto stainless braided lines. That provides a much stiffer line that doesn't expand during the use of brakes and doesn't waste the work put into the master cylinder. All of that force goes to clamping your brakes around the rotors. So getting into corners, I could brake a little bit later, I could brake harder, and that felt very positive, gave me feedback, and that's what I like to do. As you can see, we outfitted the bike with the Tech Spec tank grips. That really helps in cornering and in braking. When you're jamming yourself into a brake zone late and you're demanding a lot out of your brakes, your body has the tendency to want to go forward and shift and slide up the tank. Having extra grip here through the high friction material that Tech Spec provides prevents you from having to clamp so hard and then it doesn't wear out your core. And that's under braking. Under cornering, you just plant in and your body doesn't shift around. So these are very inexpensive. I really like them. We also changed the final drive on this bike. We didn't mess with the gearing just yet. We didn't know what to expect at this particular track, so we stayed with the standard ratio, but we did go to a DID 520 chain, our in-house TST Industries Works rear sprocket, and a chromoly lightweight front sprocket. Not much to report. It's just a nice setup, a little bit lighter weight than the OEM 525 kit, and it presents you with the ability to use all of our different sprockets that we make for this bike. They're aluminum. They drop a considerable amount of rotating mass, so that's a plus right there. We also decided to start modifying the suspension. Now, when I took the S model to the track, I ran it around Roebling. There were no real big braking zones, so I didn't have the on-off brakes feeling a lot. I wasn't demanding much out of it. I wasn't going very fast because of the ground clearance issue I had. So there was not much to report. During that test, I found the suspension adequate for what I was doing, but I knew as soon as I start going faster on this bike, I will need good suspension. So we decided to throw on an experimental TTX shock by Öhlins. They don't currently make that setup for this bike. We had to machine a custom clevis that will fit this on the bike and start experimenting. I found some shortcomings, but since this isn't a real commercial product, I won't go into that. Once we polish that out and start offering kits either by Öhlins or Nitron, we'll make a subsequent video and let you guys know what we found and how it improves the ride. For this test, I found that with this setup I have with the Olin shock, it was really adequate. It was good. It needed a little bit of tuning, not a big deal. I got through some settings and I was able to take out the squat during on throttle acceleration and big dive forward. I mean, we still had the OEM forks. Nothing changed on the forks, so some of that dive was due to the front, but I was able to kind of calm down the rear during hard braking through messing with all the damping settings. And so that really provided for a better feel on the bike, and I was able to get more consistent lines into every corner. Inside here, it's not very visible. We do have our TST Industries Works airbox that we created here. Currently, it's in testing phase. We will be launching that product sometime soon. It includes an entire airbox, filter element, and also velocity stacks. It reshapes the whole torque and horsepower curve, better suited for track use with a higher output, higher peak output, and also shifts the whole curve upwards. It takes out a lot of the fall off after peak. So it's a really nice positive change. It has to be coupled up with an aftermarket exhaust and a tune. What you see here is our Acura full exhaust that we've been playing with. We tested multiple exhaust setups, but we landed on this one because it was the optimal for what we wanted to do. Now, exhaust, airbox, flows a lot more air. We did create a flash tune program that accommodates all of those changes. We did tune per cylinder. We welded bungs into these header primaries, and we were able to put sensors in each. We optimized the fueling, we did some other setting changes, and it felt like we got a big up in power. Every corner exit was just super torquey and the bike just went. Anytime I was pulling off a corner, I felt like the bike was just really pulling, and even walking a little bit out of line. So definitely has a lot of torque, definitely has a lot of power. We'll just have to tune the suspension to help get the traction now and make the whole ride feel better. For this test, we also changed the tires. We went with Battle Axe, Bridgestone front and rear slicks. I know those tires really well, so I wanted something that I know how it feels and where the edge of the envelope is. So that's what we tested. I don't think that I rode at a pace where those were the best suited tires for what I was doing. I probably could have done better with DOTs as they have sipes, and I could possibly keep a little bit more heat in the tires. The rear was fine. The front, I think I could have probably done better on a sipe tire. That's it for this first phase test. Those were all the modifications that we did for that phase, and those are the findings that I reported to you. That's all I have. Now I'm gonna get into phase two. We came back from the track and we realized that there were some shortcomings, and we were able to get our hands on some additional hardware to overcome them, and that's what we did. What you see here is the Woodcraft rear sets. They take the foot position and raise it even farther up beyond what the stock with our TST Industries risers provide. So this was a big help. I no longer had the clearance issues. I was able to go into every corner, just no qualms, just send it, and I would not run out of space. One additional awesome thing about these is that you can configure the bike to GP shift. GP shifting is not as trivial to configure as on some other bikes. You can't just flip the linkage when you want to. So the guys over at Woodcraft figured out an alternate means for giving us the GP shift capability. And that was very nice, because then I was able to shift through corners and downshift with, not having to be completely upright. It was really nice. So it definitely helped with what I was doing, and it felt great. We also did Woodcraft clip-ons. These clip-ons actually place the bars even further up towards the front of the cockpit. Now that presents an additional challenge because we run out of space here within the bodywork. So after going with the race body that you see on this bike for phase two, we opened up additional amounts of clearance, but we still hit here and there. So we had to make a couple accommodations for that. No big deal. We were able to do that, and that really helped. As you can see, we have a full set of bodywork on this for race purposes. It's fiberglass, it's lightweight. It does remove quite a bit of weight, but the major upgrade here is the tail. The seating position is much higher, so you're not as cramped here in the rider triangle. Now, these being substantially higher, now we need extra clearance here, otherwise, again, get T-Rexed, run out of space. So this combination here worked pretty well. I found that with this particular seat, I was not able to anchor as well here, so I'm probably gonna shave off a bunch of this to get myself closer to the center line of the bike. We're also probably gonna pursue a tank extender that takes this body line and blows it out a little bit to have more of an anchor point here and a broader surface area for anchoring your leg into. But even in this configuration, it was a big improvement over what we felt in phase one, where we still had the stock bodywork and the stock seat. The stock seat is very slippery, you just move around a little bit too much. All of these grippy surfaces help you stay where you want to be. So you set yourself up for a turn, set yourself up for a braking zone, whatever it is, and it doesn't take a lot of force to clamp down on the bike and prevent yourself from moving. That's big ups. For this phase, we also got our hands on Andriani cartridges for the forks. Now we have a full suite of suspension, even though the rear is not fully developed yet for the bike. The front really felt great. The cartridges came to us in the forks from Andriani. We were working with them. We sent them our forks for the R&D process, and they hooked us up with the setup. It wasn't really tuned for us. The spring's a little bit too hard. I wasn't even able to make it through the full stroke of the suspension. I kept backing out on the preload, and I got it to a sweet spot where it felt planted and it felt good. And then I started working on the damping, and at this point I'm gonna keep it there. I don't have a mature view on what this setup needs. All I know is that it already felt better. It wasn't diving as much on braking. It wasn't unloading rapidly when I released the brakes and throttled on. It really made my ride at a higher pace much more predictable, and I was able to even pick up the pace subsequently to a greater level. Now, one more thing we found in phase one that I didn't mention yet was that it was uncomfortable to turn the throttle with the stock throttle tube. It's just a little too long of a throw, so we designed and started making these throttle tubes that limit the amount of throttle throw that you need to go through to open it fully. So 0 to 100% is lessened by a certain degree. It's very manageable in any configuration of your body on the bike. And to help with that actually translating to a full throttle opening, we updated our flash program to remap the ETV for 0 to 100% within that range. So that's really nice. It really helps with the ergonomics and also the control of the bike. We will continue to develop that, and we will have that on the market pretty soon for all those of you that like a short throw throttle, and we'll take it from there. On this particular track trip, we decided to play around with different tire sizes in the rear. On the front, we just have a 120. On the rear, played with tires between 180 and 200. I felt like the 200 felt the best to me. This bike has a lot of torque, and I feel like the extra contact patch was really helping me in certain faster corners. On the smaller tire, I felt like the bike was walking out of line under throttle a lot. With the larger contact patch, I was able to point and shoot a little bit better and give it more throttle without running out of space and getting off the pavement. So, would I recommend the 200? Not necessarily. It really depends on your setup and your riding style and your riding pace. For me, the 200 did present a pretty big improvement. In closing, I want to say that this bike has been a pleasure to start in the stock mode and then start developing it. Feeling all the progress is really, really awesome. I love throwing my leg over this thing and taking it to the track and having a great time. Puts a big old smile on my face. If you like bikes, if you like twins, this bike is pretty awesome, I gotta say. And every step of the way, it just gets better and better and better. And It's only been around since January this year. So as more companies come on board with aftermarket support, this thing is just gonna be awesome. Now, if you're considering this versus R7, there are so many points and counterpoints to consider. I actually have raced an R7 and I did a bunch of track sessions on an R7. We own one here. I like them both. They both provide a smile. However, this is a more technologically advanced platform that has more potential in the future. I think if I was just a consumer and I was considering one versus the other, this one would present more of a future to me, and I would probably pick this one. All right, I want to thank you for watching. Also like comments, so if you guys feel inclined to tell me what you think, drop them below in the comment feed, hit like and subscribe, and check out tstindustries.com. We have all the parts that you see on this bike ready to go, or we'll be launching them shortly. Peace, ride safe.